Hey everybody, Kevin here from Invisible Insights, your high performance coach. And here's a little something for your performance edge. Well, actually, it's a lot of something. But anyway, here's the thing. It's doing a deep dive with a client and, a high performer wanting to go to another level, feels like there's one out there, but really not dialed in. Not feeling like he's dialed in the way that he wants to be dialed in. And if you've watched these videos over the past, we've talked about core drivers and performance drivers. So we went back to the drawing board and really started dialing in and having conversations about the defining aspects of the things that really drive him, that really puts fuel in his tank and helps his motor, his psychology, all those things to really just be on point. And we nailed down his core drivers, we nailed down his performance drivers, and we started getting into how do we defeat the self-sabotage, right? The things that are protecting us. Self-sabotage is a lot of times a form of protection, and it's protecting our current safe self from this really risky future self, right? And sometimes we feel like the future is risky because it's unknown and it's uncertain and all that stuff. And so we had to kind of go through hey, what are the things that can hold you back? And we started eliminating and removing some of those aspects of things that he would give into that are fear-based for the most part. And then we got into the process of identity. And in identity, I had him do the exercise of hey, name the top 10 people in your life that you love and care the most about. And I want you to write out what they would say about you at your funeral. What would you want them to say? What does that look like? And we began to start writing that out. It was a very tearful exercise. It was very emotional. And once we had that down, we started to connect the dots between his core drivers and performance drivers into a level of contextual levels. Use the word context, the contextual level of his core drivers and performance drivers, which means it's like the kind that really produce the outcome of people saying that about you at your funeral. And then it got really fun. It's almost like a funnel. It just started getting tighter and tighter and tighter. And then we started getting into, his future self. So if we're talking about where we want to be in 5 years, what are we talking about in 5 years? And if you watch past videos, we know we reverse engineer those things. We go back and look at it. And what started to really take place in this is his perspective started to change. He started to see himself, his current self, through the lens of a future self. And he started to see this here is really kind of the contextualized component to what it is and how I do what I do. And it started to lay out what we would call a purpose. What is that driving overall purpose that you exist and live through each and every day? And as we started unpacking that purpose, then I started asking the questions. So then what does that look like? How does that look like when you wake up? What do you do? He said, I would wake up with a smile on my face. I would wake up looking at the day, differently than maybe I would have looked at it in the past. I would look at situations that I would probably in the past would have been fearful about, but now I'm hopeful about. It started to change his perspective. And the perspective component of it, and through all the contextualization of everything, through his core drivers and performance drivers, all of a sudden produced that purpose. This is what I'm here to do. And then that purpose started defining his presence, which meant that this is how people experience me. And I told him, I said, listen, you are a steward of all of this. You're a steward of it. These are gifts that are being given you. This level of clarity is creating a level of energy in you, but it's also going to have to create a level of courage, which means you're going to have to be comfortable to be ridiculously free enough just to live in that purpose, to live in that presence, to not be worried about what anyone thinks or how things go that could you think used to define you but don't anymore. It just starts to become the building of the bigger picture of what you're becoming, what you're moving towards, what you're growing towards over the next 5 years. And that purpose and that presence starts to really just get dialed in. It's funny because it doesn't take a lot of energy to be the real you. It doesn't. When you start removing the obstacles, when you start removing all the sideways energy and the head trash and the self-talk and all the crazy stuff that you put yourself through in the past before you had that level of clarity, now it's like, good, I just get to wake up and be me. And guess what? I'm just going to be committed to being the best version of this that I can be every single day. And then at the end of every day, I'm going to write out all the wins that I've had for the day. I'm going to live in the win. I'm going to live in that whole idea of this is the level of progression that I'm on towards this picture that I have of what I'm becoming. That is the game. So if you want to get real psycho battle, baby, if you want to go down the road and do the heavy lifting, I just kind of gave you a little bit of a roadmap. It's worth taking the time, buy yourself a journal. I don't have one handy, but I'd hold it up if I had one right in front of me. And I would get that journal and start journaling. The journaling is your friend. It is the place where all these things live that you can go back to and evaluate and understand and take to another level. So guys, listen, this is like a master's performance edge one right here today. But I just want to explain to you how powerful that was for this individual, because I know this guy is going to crush it. He is so going to crush it. World better, fasten its seat belts, because he's showing up. And just by being him, will make a difference and cause ripples that will change the lives of everyone he comes into contact with. So with that said, I challenge you to do the same. Hey, always remember this: when you see the invisible, you become unstoppable. This is a big invisible, gang. So get after it. Do some damage. Do some work. Replay this a couple times. Get that journal out. It's time. Do some damage.